You're listening to Let's Stay Together, a podcast about Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
And today we're talking about chapters 60 and 61.
More beach. Spoilers.
Big spoiler. I hope everybody bought a lot of sunblock. This is going to go on for a while. More bad beach jokes. This is what I'm bringing to the table today.
That's what you always bring to the table.
Bad jokes. But specifically bad beach jokes. Oh, also I just wanted to make a quick reminder that we are doing a mid-series special in a couple of weeks. And so if you have any questions, you can send them to us. I realized maybe in the first one or the second time I mentioned this, we didn't I don't remember if I actually listed all the places explicitly. It was just you can send it on stuff. But so yeah, just if you want to send a thing and you don't know what to do, you can go to staytogetherpodcast.com and send a note in the contact form that we have there, or you can send an email to staytogetherpodcast@gmail.com. You can send us a direct message on Twitter. Our handle is @staytogetherpod. And you can also find us on tumblr.com at staytogetherpodcast.tumblr.com. So you can send anonymous asks through there if you don't have a Tumblr account or whatever. Yeah, we've gotten a couple so far, but if you want to send anything, you can send it there and we'll answer them. It'll be a good time.
Yep.
Yeah, so like I said, we're back at the, like Kayla said, we're at the beach, and today we're discussing chapters 60 and 61 at the beach. We're going to do, well, I'm not at the beach. It's October, so we'll do our summary and discussion and then spoiler discussion like we always do. So in chapter 60, we begin where we left off last time. So at the end of the last time, there's an exciting moment where Yuki held Tohru and kissed her on the forehead, and it was a great time. So we pick off exactly where we left off last time. Yuki holds Tohru's arms, and he kisses her forehead, and we see his narration / it's one of those moments where Takaya uses thoughts as narration, which happens a lot. It's going to happen a lot in these chapters, but he thinks, when my lips lovingly touched her, it was a symbol of the end and a new beginning. Then we cut away to the main house, or Kagura's house. We see Rin, who Kagura calls by her full name, Isuzu, putting on shoes at the door, and Kagura says that they should go to the beach too. Everyone's there. I bet Kyokun is there, she says. Kagura, Rin says, why don't you stop forcing yourself on him and calling it love? It's painful to watch. Kagura looks taken aback and asks why she would say something like that, and Rin is like, well, it's true, isn't it? As she leaves. Kagura's mother comes in to ask about what happened, and Kagura comments that it's been a long time since they took Isuzu in, but she doesn't seem to try to belong. Kagura's mom also says, she mentions the beach house, that she heard Kagura talking about the beach house, and says that she shouldn't go. She heard that the head of the family went, and between the two of them, she worries about Kagura getting hurt after she heard about what happened to Kisa. And Kagura's like, what? Akito went? What for? And her mom's like, I don't know. I think Shigure invited him or something. Kagura looks upset and says, Shichan, you son of a bitch, and kicks down the door. And her mom is like, it's the second time you've destroyed that door in as many months. We transition away to the beach house, and we see the narration, which is Yuki's dialogue from the last chapter. I won't lose. I'll keep going forward. I can go on believing, I'm sure of it. And we see what I think is Yuki pulling away from after kissing Tohru, and the two of them walk back to the house holding hands. Yuki couldn't say anything more, Tohru thinks. We went back to the house together. Everyone else had returned, and we all ate pancakes together. Everyone seemed to be having so much fun. Even Yuki was smiling, but I was lost to my own thoughts. Tohru remembers him kissing her and crying. I listened closely to the small voice that fell in drops instead of words. And her narration trails off. She's holding her head. Hattori interrupts her thoughts. So this is the next morning, I guess. He checks to see if she has a headache and just to say hi, because if you remember, they came with Akito last time, but Hattori wasn't able to come and say hi to Tohru. He was just stuck at the house with Akito, just like everybody else. He apologizes for leaving her alone, but she assures him that Kyo is with her, and she thinks that they might be worried about leaving the two of them alone. But she thinks, blushing and tearing up a little, I'm happy, she says. I really am very lucky, so please don't worry about me. I'm fine. And Tori smiles, and he pats her on the head and leaves, and he tells Kyo not to leave her alone. It's very charming. Hattori's very sweet in this scene. After he leaves, Tohru wonders if she'll go through this whole trip without greeting Akito. She starts to get lost in her thoughts again, wondering what Akito said to Yuki the night before, and Kyo worries about her too, and he asks her about how she's feeling, but she deflects his concerns by suggesting that they go and play in the sand together. We cut away to the guest house. Yuki sits on the porch reading, and Shigure interrupts him and asks about what Akito said to him the night before. The truth. Satisfied? He says sassily, and he drops his book and then takes off. No, Shigure says. That day won't come for a long time yet.
I like how everyone just has to, I guess, hang out bored while Akito hangs off of one Soma after another.
sure seems like that's the case.
Yeah.
It's super weird. Yeah, you would think that they would all be like, the first night they all came over and Akito was like, welcome everyone, or whatever, and demanded all of their attention simultaneously. But now it's like, in this scene that's about to come up, Haru is like bearing the brunt of Akito's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And Yuki wasn't included in that last time because they ran into each other like outside. So now Yuki's just sitting there like reading or chilling. Like he's kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre. They all have to go there. It's Akito's scheme, right? It's revealed, I think, in this chapter that Akito just wants to take everybody away from Tohru's attention. So it doesn't really matter as long as they're not there.
And I see Yuki like reading there, and it's like he's like waiting for his dentist appointment or something.
Yeah, he does look bored. I like how sassy he is to Shigure.
Yeah.
Like that's also really funny to me. It's like, wow, someone's in a good mood.
Yeah.
He clearly doesn't trust Shigure now at this point, which is interesting.
I was gonna say more people need to be sassy to Shigure.
Yeah, he deserves that for sure. Inside, Akito leans on Haru. So like I said just 2 seconds ago, Haru is the one who's bearing the brunt of Akito's attention right now. Haru says that, and as you described, being laid on by Akito. Haru says that he heard that Kureno is visiting as well. Even if he were here, Akito says, I wouldn't let you see him. Honda-san either, Haru asks. And Akito is like, why must you bring her up? Because Kureno is a member of the Zodiac too, Haru says. Akito looks away uncomfortably and asks, do I have to let all the Junichi meet her? And Haru says that it seems unnatural for Akito not to. Unnatural, you say? Oh, Hatsaru, you say such funny things. Haru frowns and looks upset. Is there anything else, unnatural that you'd like to... No, Haru says. And I'd like it if you wouldn't laugh like that. But Akito says, leaning on Haru's knee and looking menacing. It's funny, Hatsaru, just like you, the big, dumb, funny ox. Haru looks down. Oh, why so glum, Akito says, reaching up and caressing his cheek. Did I hurt your feelings? Outside at the seaside, but fortunately away from Akito. Every time we have like a scene with Akito and we like go somewhere else, I'm always like, oh, okay. Outside at the seaside, Tohru and Kyo make sandcastles, and Kyo critiques her, saying that hers is more of a sand mountain, but then confesses that he has never made sandcastle before. That means I'm your senpai, doesn't it? Tohru says excitedly, fist clenched, and Kyo is like, senpai, you really suck at this. Tohru Momiji cries and like hug tackles her and turns into a bunny, of course. I'm back. And Hiro and Kisa also have returned as well, it turns out. Tohru notices Yuki and Haru coming back at the same time, and Yuki asks if Haru is tired after spending all day in Akito's lair. And Haru says nah, and asks if Yuki is okay. Yuki says that all he does is cause people to worry. But I'm alright this time, he says. Are you going to leave the nest? Haru asks, and Yuki is surprised but laughs. I don't know if you're saying that because you understand or not. Haru smiles and says, yeah, I like that about you. And Yuki's like, what? Tohru welcomes them back. Yuki comments on her sand mountain as well, and he apologizes for the night before. He looks away, and she looks concerned. I knew the things that I was saying must have sounded quite strange, but I just kept talking. I'm sorry. But, he says, looking at her, I won't apologize for kissing you. She blushes and looks surprised as he says, but if you prefer, I don't mind if you forget it. Tohru says, I couldn't possibly forget it. She says that she didn't fully understand, but she's sure what he was saying was important to him. It was small, she thinks. A voice so small that I can't hear it, no matter how hard I listen. I can't hear it, his true voice. Yuki smiles a forlorn smile and says, not rueful, forlorn. I decided. There's a right time and a wrong time to tell the whole truth, wouldn't you say? And he holds her cheeks and whispers in her ear, that's why, someday, okay? She remembers him saying something similar earlier on the beach trip, when he was laying on the couch and he was kind of like sick, before he told her he needs to open the tightly closed lid. This is the time from like 3 chapters ago, probably. He pulls away so that he's face to face with her and lowers his hands, kind of running his fingers through her hair as he removes them from her face. For now, all I can tell you is that I'm doing well, he says, so don't worry about me. Yes, I understand, she says, blushing and freaking out, of course, at the intimate contact. She thinks shakily, somehow it seems like he's suddenly gotten tougher. While Momiji asks Yuki to admire the sand dumpling that he made in the background. So they all start heading back to the house, and as Yuki passes Kyo, he grabs him by the shirt collar and says, if you happen to see Akito, don't get stupid and lose it. And we see Yuki's resolute face on the next page as he continues to say, I realize it must be painful to always be scorned the way you are, but I can't have you doing anything stupid to send Akito sparks flying at her. And Kyo is like, who the hell do you think you are? I'm me, Yuki says, looking down his nose at Kyo. A moment of silence passes through the group, accompanied by the tranquil sounds of the sea at dusk. "I'll kill you!" Kyo shouts. Tohru thinks the small voice is still far away, but... And then we cut away, kind of like mid-sentence, to Kureno and Akito together in the darkened guest house. "Say, Kureno," Akito says, "would you like to go meet Tohru Honda?" And Kureno doesn't react. The narration, Toru's narration from before, finishes. I know I'll hear his voice someday, and we see a scene of Kyo yelling at Yuki, Yuki looking like he isn't bothered at all by it, and Tohru smiling and trying to like get Kyo to calm down. That's the end of the chapter. I also like how in all these chapters, there's like a million things happening, and like everybody has to make an appearance, so we jump from like scene to scene with like a bunch of different people.
Yeah, I think this is probably these chapters are probably like the most characters in one place at one time that we've had.
Probably, like, almost all of them are there, so yeah, probably. Like, Kagura's stayed home, I guess.
But we even gotta look at her.
Yeah, she was briefly shown, at least. So chapter 61 opens with Rin, huffing and puffing, leaning against a wall. She looks up and sees the ocean. So it turns out that she was going to the beach house after all, I guess.
Well, she's obviously dressed for it.
Yeah. Knee-high boots, high-heel boots. I mean, she's wearing like a miniskirt or whatever, like she always does, so.
Those boots would be so bad for walking in the sand.
They'd be so bad for walking anywhere. Which is probably partly why she's like tired, but anyway.
She's like, I should have got some sneaks.
Yeah, she should have worn some like rad sneakers instead of rad heels, I guess. We cut away to the guest house where Akito and Kureno have gone out for a walk. Shigure and Hattori notice it and they comment on it and talk about how obvious it is that Akito has a superiority complex about Tohru since he keeps taking others away from her. Is it a superiority complex or an inferiority complex? Just out of curiosity.
I guess the complex is more about being superior to Tohru, so
thinking that he's better than Tohru, but then yet being super envious. And
I feel like I'd call it an inferiority complex if someone was all like, oh man, I'm so much worse than these other people. So
that's true. It's like I'm so much better than her.
Yeah.
But also like, but clearly acting in a way like he's afraid that that Tohru's gonna
it's insecurity, but
superiority, insecurity.
Yeah.
An insecure superiority.
I think people with superiority complexes are insecure.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's both. Yuki overhears them talking about it, and he takes off. We see him leaving. Outside on their walk, Akito says that Tohru is a Gorgon who should be isolated. Exterminated, in fact. But I'm a kind person by nature. I think it might be nice to grace the Gorgon with a little enjoyment. I think I'll introduce you to her myself. So, Kureno, you're to act as a proper member of the Junichi, Akito says. I worry about you because you're inferior. After that, we'll leave the Gorgon all alone again. As long as she's here, she will always be alone. She needs to realize that she'll never beat me. She's no match for me. But she's not alone, Kureno says. Kyokun's with her, isn't he? Akito looks over his shoulder with a pointed glare and asks, is it fun being with a monster? Then we cut away to the beach again, thankfully, away from Akito. Tohru has made a new and improved sandcastle, and Kyo has found a hermit crab, for the sandcastle. I think he's like, it's a souvenir. He asks if she's okay not swimming, and she says it's more fun being together, and Kyo blushes. Besides, she adds, I want to make such a good castle that it shocks and amazes everyone, and he's like, that's some dream. She asks about why he hates the water, and he says that the cat spirit probably hated it. She asks if the previous cat wore the bracelet that he does as well, and he says that he did, and she wonders what it's made of, and he says human bones, which takes her by surprise, of course. It was a famous warrior or priest or something, he says. Apparently it happened a really long time ago. They say the red ones are colored with blood. I don't know how much of that's true, though, since the color doesn't fade, he says, looking at the bracelet. Toru's eyes are wide as he continues. Apparently it was because it was made by sacrificing the lives of others. It's supposed to be a powerful protective charm. I always thought it was strange ever since I was a little kid. And we see a memory. It looks like the time that was referenced back in chapter 52, which is when they went to visit Shisho's house. The one where Kyo was outside and Shisho came and found him. Mm-hmm. Kyo says, what do they mean an existence built on others' sacrifices, on others' lives? He says to Shisho. Stealing everything, trampling on everything until there's nothing left. In the present, he thinks, even so. Tohru takes his wrist in her hands and looks up at him, blushing, looking concerned, perhaps she can tell that this is something painful that he can't say, that he isn't expressing. He smiles a soft smile that's strained with a mix of relief and regret. To me, that's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Their moment is interrupted by a wave crashing over them. That was so scary, Tohru says, looking shocked and wide-eyed. Damn you, Ocean, I'm gonna kill you! You hear me? I'll teach you to mess with me, Kyo says, standing up and, raising his fist. Tohru smiles and says, don't be silly, Kyo-kun, you're no match for the Ocean. And he grumps, and she laughs. He grabs her cheeks and says, don't laugh like that. And she's like, yes, but keeps laughing, which is the best. It's one of my favorite moments of, the whole series. I was like, yay, it's happening.
I kind of like the translation from the old scanlation a little better. That you can't go against the sea, but...
Yeah, I noticed that we quote that all the time in our between to me and you. We joke about that a lot, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't that translation." I thought it was.
Yeah,
it was like a scanlation. I think you can't go against the sea. Over to the side of the beach, Akito stands with Kureno, observing them, laughing and picking up the remains of the sandcastle and finding Tohru's hat. Such a carefree monster, Akito says, even after killing his own mother. And Akito looks angry. We're going back. I'm hot. I don't feel well, Akito says, turning to leave. But I understand now. The biggest misunderstanding is that monster. Yuki, who it turns out snuck out behind them and followed them, watches in relief as Akito leaves without talking to Tohru. And he notices Rin skulking around as well. Inside the beach house, Tohru has taken her post-wave crushing bath and lets Kyo know that the bath is free. He waves his leaves to take a bath and she notices his bracelet again. She thinks, I wonder how heavy a burden it must be for Kyo-kun to always wear that. Kyo-kun's voice was small. I couldn't hear it. Even so, I wonder if I should do everything in my power to hear it. She thinks of Kyo looking at her before the wave hit, and Yuki whispering, someday, okay, in her ear. And then we see Rin walking through the woods as Tohru's thought/narration continues. But even I have things that no matter what, I don't want to be heard. She hangs up the laundry to dry in the ocean breeze, looking lost in thought again. And she looks up and thinks, there really is very little I can do. A strong wind picks something off the line, and Tohru's like, oh, please come back, please don't fly away. And she trails off and finds it. She catches up with the laundry that's caught on a bush. She looks over and notices a horse on the ground, and it's a horse? She backs up in shock and bonks her head against a tree. She wonders if the horse is wild, but then notices clothes or whatever stuff on the ground and thinks the horse must be from the Zodiac. Rin, a voice calls, and it's Yuki, who found them in the clearing. It is you, Rin. Yuki says that he noticed her and followed and introduces her to Tohru. Well, at least he says this is Soma. I don't know if it's an introduction if you don't. I don't know. Yuki thinks that she must be sick, and Tohru asks if they should call Hattori for Rin, but Rin kicks out at her, and Yuki saves Tohru from certain death by horse kick, and then chastises Rin for doing that. Don't call anyone, she says, suddenly transforming back and looking at Tohru with her piercing dark eyes, of course completely naked. So Tohru is and hands her the sheet or whatever it was that she went to go catch. And she goes off to get clothes for her and thinks, what a surprise. I never thought I'd get to meet another member of the Zodiac here. But it's a Soma house. Of course you're going to meet someone. Anyway, she imagines Rin and thinks, possessed by the spirit of the horse, such a beautiful, feisty young woman, and such a graceful figure. I get the feeling my clothes won't fit her. She worries while she's grabbing stuff off the line for Rin to wear. While Tohru's gone, Rin picks up her stuff, and Yuki asks why she's there. Did you come to see someone? He asks, remembering the situation between Haru and Rin. So we know that Haru and Rin were dating secretly, and then Haru says that Rin dumped him. This is referring to earlier. Shut up, she says, grabbing Yuki by the collar. Where I go and what I do is my business, all right? And whatever you do, don't tell the others I was here. If you do, I'll kill you. Kill me? We both know that you don't have it in you, Yuki says as Tohru returns with the clothes. You talk big, Rin says, but you're nothing more than Akito's toy. Tohru looks shocked. Rin looks kind of scared, I think, actually. And Yuki frowns and looks sort of quietly upset at what she said. Rin grabs the clothes out of Tohru's hands and yells, I'm warning you, don't tell anyone, over her shoulder as she takes off. Tohru yells after her to wait, and Yuki thinks, a woman who can talk tough while completely naked. Amazing. A mystery, I mean. He wonders why she was here, and Tohru worries that she might be sick. Yuki says that they should keep quiet about seeing her for now, and Yuki says that he wants to go after her, but he needs to go back since he snuck out. It's all right, leave Rin to me, he says. Sorry for rushing off. I'll try to come back early today. Yuki-kun, Tohru says, looking down, and then she pauses and thinks, there's little that I can do, but... I'll be waiting, Tohru says, looking up and smiling a warm smile. Yuki smiles too and says, okay, wait for me, as he leaves. Now then, Tohru thinks, fists up and eyes sparkling with determination. I have to make a delicious dinner. Today was an amazing day. I ended up meeting the horse-san. Now all that's left is Rooster-san. So that must mean that Akito-san is... We cut away to the beach. Rin stands above the remains of Tohru's sandcastle. Damn it, she says. And she, like, tugs at the shirt. I don't know if she, like, ripped it, but she definitely, like, puts her hands up and, like, tugs at the open neck of the shirt. She remembers Tohru and Kyo together as if she saw them at the beach, and Tohru's concerned face when they met. Damn it, she says, and kicks her boot into the sandcastle.
No, sandcastle.
No, well, it wasn't. It was basically a sand mountain at that point as well, because the waves smushed it anyway. So. It's kind of awesome. I feel like she goes really, she looks really distressed in this scene, actually. We cut away to the guest house briefly, and Akito tells Shigure and Hattori to bring Kyo tomorrow. Don't fail me, he says, and slams the door shut. Could this mean a storm is brewing? Shigure asks Hattori, and Hattori's like, you really are enjoying this, aren't you? And that's the end of chapter 61. Dun dun dun.
He does look really eager, which is funny. Shigure.
Yeah, he does. I think he definitely loves the drama.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's clearly scheming, but also just, like, loves the drama.
Yeah. I think he's having more fun than anyone right now.
Definitely. I feel like if he wasn't, like, a cursed Soma, he would be, like, a writer for E! Or something. Like,
yeah.
Sorry, for, like, Entertainment Tonight or something like that. Akito walks away, and then to Hattori, he's like, did you hear what Aaron Carter said?
Topical.
Yeah, I went there. Anyway, so much drama this time. And we met some
Dorama.
Yeah, dorama. Yeah, for sure. And we not met, but we like had a lot of encounters with some different characters, which was exciting.
Everyone was everywhere.
At the main house, at the beach. How did Rin get there? Did she like walk there?
I guess so.
No, there's no way. They took a car, didn't they?
Maybe she was a horse and ran there and then turned back and then turned back into a horse again when she got tired.
She carefully took her pants off. I was like, I was thinking for like a long time, like, she has her same boots, but then Tohru brought her clothes. And I was like, why did she need clothes when her boots are there? Oh, she tore them. I get it.
Yeah.
She transformed like suddenly. Didn't the same thing happen to Haru's?
Yeah, I was going to say, most of the animals are small enough that they just like wind up swimming in their clothes, but like Haru and Rin
yeah. And Hattori.
are large.
Literally swimming. I mean.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, the like Haru and Rin seem to like destroy their clothes when they change. So
we did meet Kagura's mom. I believe that's her first
yeah,
appearance.
we did. Yeah, I don't think we ever meet anybody's parents. At least that's my like. That's how
Not
I
very
feel. I
many,
was like,
yeah.
oh, it's Kagura's mom. That's interesting. I remember that they have kind of a relationship, like a. In this case, it seems like they have a good one.
Yeah, they seem to be on good terms.
Even so much so that she's like, don't say anything to anybody, but I don't want you to spend time with Akito.
Yeah.
So, that was interesting.
And they took in Rin, apparently, which is interesting.
Apparently they did. So Rin lives with them, it seems.
Yeah.
At least has for a couple of months, she said.
Yeah, at the moment, They're obviously aware of what happened to Rin, which we don't know the details, but she wound up in the hospital, so...
Right. And they were aware of what happened to Kisa also, they heard.
Yeah.
We also learned more about Rin this time. We've seen her for a couple of times. Like, we saw her in the hospital. Like, Hiro came to talk to her in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then we saw her come to talk to Shigure, and that was it, right? So far? Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is definitely her most prominent appearance so far.
And she was not happy.
Yeah. I mean, among other things, we learned she's the horsey.
She's the nene.
Yeah. As Jane would say.
Yes, my sister would say. Jane, I know you're out there listening. I mean, yes, she's the horse of the zodiac. After all this time, it was finally revealed.
Yep.
She has her piercing horsey eyes. I mean,
yeah. That is kind of, actually, I didn't really think about it, but her eyes are like really large.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's a manga, but I mean, even compared to the
large
other
eyes,
characters in this series, her eyes seem kind of particularly large and round.
Yeah.
Which is rather horse-like.
Yeah. They have those big, almond-shaped eyes or whatever you want to call them. Like, yeah, she kind of looks like a prey animal. I mean, what?
Yeah. Very angry prey animal.
Yeah. She's definitely angry. Yeah. I like how she, I noticed in these chapters, there's a lot of people picking up each other by the collars, including her grabbing Yuki by the collar and threatening him, which was interesting. Yeah, and then we also learned that it seems like she's still not in good health, I guess.
Yeah, she's still, assuming she didn't walk all the way. She said.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that would exhaust anyone, but I think
yeah,
it seems to imply that it's still the result of whatever she was in the hospital for that's causing her to be kind of weak and tired.
Yeah, it certainly seems like that. It seems like she's definitely struggling to get around.
Yeah, and she got tired enough to transform into her animal form. So.
Become a horsey, as you said.
Yes. I also like the little line where after she changes back and Yuki wonders if she changed back through stubbornness.
Yuki had some nice sassy comments about her. That was just one. I liked the one where he was like, she's like a woman who's able to threaten someone while naked. Like, that's whatever, amazing or something. I forget exactly what he said.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah, they have kind of an interesting dynamic in this one scene we see them. Like,
they do.
Like, they don't seem to like each other, but seem to kind of be pretty familiar with each other.
It does seem like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we've seen them together. So
yeah. And Yuki does seem like somewhat concerned about her. Like,
yeah, I think he's genuinely concerned about her.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about Rin is, like, she said a couple of things that were, like, really, really cruel and insightful. Yeah. Like, she said to Kagura, like, why don't you stop forcing yourself on Kyo and then calling it love or whatever? And then Kagura's like, why would you say that? Like, and then she's like, well, it's true. And then Kagura's like, well, even if it is true, like, at the end, I don't think I said that in my summary, but in the dialogue, she's like, well, even if it is true. And then she's like, hey, and, like, Rin just walks away. Before they can finish having this argument. So
yeah,
and then she calls Yuki Akito's toy, which is also really cruel, I think, based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, we've talked about like other characters who kind of seem to zero in on people's like insecurities and weak points and stuff, and
like Shigure.
She seems to kind of have that same talent.
Yes, seems like it. I don't know if she even knows. I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like for Yuki, I mean, I think she was just being mean on purpose. But
yeah,
for Kagura, I don't know why she would say that and just like say that and leave. Like, she didn't really have to say anything, so it seemed kind of unmotivated.
Yeah, and she seems like she even like maybe feels bad after she says it to Yuki, because like we have that like panel of her kind of like looking as shocked as like Tohru does.
Yeah, her face is really interesting. She looks. I said that she looks scared, but yeah, she does look sort of like taken aback by like what she said herself, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because of what she said or because like Tohru came back and like heard her say it or what, but something.
Yeah, she definitely
obviously like has some regrets about saying that, I think.
I think so. Yeah, she looks really, so like in the panels before where we see her face, she looks really angry, like she's yelling, and then in that one her face is kind of relaxed. Like maybe it's because she can see Yuki's expression. I don't know what it is. Like it's like almost like he doesn't really react to what she's saying before. And then he looks kind of upset, but he doesn't say anything. Yeah. And that's when she backs off. So it's an interesting exchange. There's a weird dynamic between the two of them for sure. They're close, but yet Rin is like really trying to do something to make him like off-put, like not be interested in her, right?
Yeah.
The other interesting thing that happened with Rin is like we saw her at the beach at the end, thinking about Tohru and Kyo. Yeah, it's interesting. Also, I noticed that that's where did we talk about the black feathers here in your feather analysis?
Yeah, I know. I have a note that's just like feathers.
Feathers. I have a feather note too. Yeah, so there's some black feathers here while she's freaking out.
Yeah, they start at the end of Azuzu's. Why did I call her Suzu?
I don't know.
At the end of Rin's panel and going into Akito's panel.
When I make notes, sometimes I switch between their names, and it's like, why did I call her that? Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's fine. Same with Kazuma. I always switch between Kazuma and Shisho. Yeah, it's funny. That scene is very interesting. She's super upset.
Yeah. Beating up the sand.
Sandcastle. Yeah. She walked over there in her heels somehow, which is an effort in and of itself.
And somehow not sinking into the sand.
Yes. It was an interesting moment for sure. And then it transitions into Akito also being surrounded by dark feathers. So
yeah,
saying to bring Kyo and not to fail him. So
yeah. Like come the next day, don't bring Kyo, and he's like, "You had one job."
How far away is this guest house? It's on the same property, isn't it? It probably takes him 5 minutes to walk there. I feel like that's everything we can say about Rin right now. But so Rin had some really interesting moments, I would say. We finally got to see more of Akito.
Yeah, we do see a lot of Akito in these chapters. And with different people than we usually see Akito with, so we have some interesting Because, like, we got a big scene with him with Haru, and then him talking to Kureno. Like, we've seen him with Kureno before, but just to be like, Kureno, go away.
Yeah. So... Kureno, come here. Kureno, go away. Like, that's basically it. I mean, I guess in the chapter that focused on, like, Kureno and Kureno comes back, and I guess it's, like, it's not Akito sassing him, it's the maid, but the maid is like, you should go see Akito. Akito's been calling for you. So, yeah. We got to see Akito with, like, most of them. Like, a bunch of them at one time. And then another time with the Yuki, which we saw before. And then again, this time not so much with Shigure. Shigure was there, but mostly talking to Hattori. They were also just chilling somewhere in the... being forced to stay in the house, in the guest house, while Akito yelled at Haru and... Yeah, smoking. Does Shigure only smoke when Hattori's there? I can't remember if he actually said that, or if that's true.
I think there's a scene where, I can't remember exactly, I think there's a scene where, like, Hattori's there and Shigure's like, ooh, cigarette, gimme. But
yeah, I think so.
I don't know if that implies that he's just, like, too cheap to buy his own cigarettes, or...
I mean, he feel like he just, like, emotionally mooches off of Hattori, so...
Yeah.
So... Anyway.
I know it's a cultural thing, but it always bugs me when doctors smoke. I'm like, you know what that does.
I mean, Hattori is just like, whatever. Remember, he doesn't have a degree. We talked about this.
Yeah. He's gonna, like, see a PSA one day and be like, smoking can kill you?
What have I been doing with my life? Yeah. I also think, like, I mean, I think, like, he kind of just, like, it doesn't... Hattori's just kind of, like, sort of given up on life. Like,
yeah,
a little
I'm sure
bit,
it's more of a, like... I want to feel slightly number than I did 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So.
It seems like it's never really, like, he never, like, talks about it or anything, but he's really the only one who smokes, actually, out of all of them. Yeah. And Shigure does when he's, like, there with Hattori, but...
Yeah, I would probably take up smoking if I was in Hattori's position.
He's just like,
something harder.
Shrooms. I mean... Don't do drugs and stay in school, okay?
Unless you're possessed by a vengeful spirit.
Well, nobody can tell you what to do if you're possessed by a vengeful spirit.
Then I think it's probably okay.
Good times. We made something sad into something funny.
We do.
Yeah, we have to try. Somebody has to. Yeah, I guess
anyway,
notably...
we were talking about Akito, right?
Yeah, we were. I was going to say, notably, the person who... One of the characters that Akito spent a lot of time with this time was Haru, which we haven't seen before, as you pointed out.
Yes.
I like how you said, just Akito taking turns laying on all the Sohmas or whatever. Yeah. Which is accurate. So, like, they're just sitting in a room and Akito's just, like, laying on him and, like, berating him and being an asshole. Yeah. Which is...
And, driving home the insecurities we know he has. And
we know that probably Akito and other people in the family have been driving into
doing
him
that his whole life. Yeah.
His whole life, yeah, exactly. It was interesting the way that Akito lays on Haru, though. Like, we didn't really talk about it, but, like, so, like, there was a scene a couple of chapters ago at the end, before summer, when they were all like, summer's coming. Akito was, like, climbing up on Shigure in a super, like, sexual way. In this case, it doesn't seem like that. It does seem sort of personal and invasive, almost.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's not sexual.
No, it's definitely not sexual, but I wouldn't describe it as sexual. No. It's intimate. It's very intimate. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right, but it's not the same. Not the same as with the scene with Shigure, I feel like.
Definitely not as risque as...
It's like, if I had to rank their scenes in order of risqueness, it would be that scene, then the one with Rin and Shigure, and then, I don't know, some other scenes. But, anyway.
Yeah.
It's definitely not as risque.
But it's low on the list, but it's still on the list.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely on the list.
Yeah.
I don't know why I think it's funny that this is what we're talking about, but yeah, it's... I would describe it... It's definitely, there's something sinister and sort of borderline sexual about it, for sure.
Yeah, and we had, like, something similar with the scene with Hattori, too, in a previous chapter here at the beach house.
Grabs his tie several times.
Yeah, and it also in the beach house one, when Hattori first arrives, Akito just, like, puts his arms, like,
drapes over
on Hattori's shoulder and just kind of leaning on him and stuff. It's just kind of like an easy possessiveness that Akito has over all of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Hattori just
is mine.
comes
I can lean on it. Yeah,
exactly. Hattori comes in the room, and then Akito immediately is just like grabby hands, like, come over here, and then it's like, get out of here, Kureno.
Yeah.
uh, poor Kureno is so isolated.
I know.
Kureno, in these chapters, he just stands around and doesn't say anything for the most part. So
Yeah.
Akito is like, Kureno, let's go for a walk. Kureno, let's go back. I'm hot and tired.
Yeah.
And Kureno's like, whatever.
I think, like, looking back on, like, these chapters now, like, rereading them, I think it was a good move to have the Uo and Kureno chapter be Kureno's first, like, introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it drives home just how different his interactions are.
Like with other people.
Like, his character is, like, when in that Uo chapter compared to these chapters, you can tell he's, like, just really, like, shut down in these chapters.
Yes, I agree with you. It's better. If you just had these, you would just be like, is that guy a
Yeah.
robot? I
Yeah.
don't know.
You'd be like, what's that guy's deal? But, like,
Yeah.
seeing him outside of Akito's influence, and then,
It's a big difference.
yeah, and then in these chapters, and knowing that he's deliberately isolated from the rest of his family.
Yeah. And like
Yeah, it definitely shows
multiple,
that.
so many of them comment on it. This is like the third time. Haru's like, so are you going to let Kureno talk to us or what? And then Akito is like, even if he was here, I wouldn't. But it's like,
Yeah.
well, he's clearly here. So. And also, Haru asks, what about Tohru? And Akito's like, no, never.
Yeah.
Basically. Not even with an excuse this time. Like, oh, he doesn't need to like talk to you. Like last time.
Yeah. And that's kind of interesting, too, because we're talking about, like, Akito's a superiority-inferiority complex.
Yeah.
Because obviously just the couple of comments from Haru about, like, it seems weird that you're not letting him see her
Yeah.
was enough to make him go like, hey, Kureno, you want to meet Tohru?
Yeah. It's like, I'll show you.
As if like, I'm fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. Akito says a lot of interesting things to Kureno.
Yeah, like, Kureno literally only says one thing.
He says Kyo is with Tohru, right? That's the only thing that he says.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Akito basically treats Kyo as like a non-entity.
Yeah, I like the like expression like Akito makes after Kureno says that. He's just like he looks like surprised, like that even came up. Like, is it fun being with a monster? Like
Yeah.
Like, it didn't even occur to him that Kyo would be like company to someone.
Basically, like he already thinks that Tohru is alone.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We know that Kyo at this point, is going to be isolated after he graduates from high school, as all the previous cats were isolated. But yet, there's another person who's even more isolated, like someone who isn't even allowed to know the rest of the Zodiac. And that person is Kureno. So, like, what is the deal with that? It's very interesting to me. Someone who Akito purposefully keeps from everybody else. I guess it's interesting. Maybe it's related to that. Like, Akito just thinks that Kyo is like a non-issue. Like that Akito thinks that nobody's interested in being close to Kyo.
Yeah.
But then
I think up till this point, but then
yeah, that might change.
Yeah, obviously seeing
he sees them together.
Yeah,
they actually walk to the beach.
Yeah, check that. But yeah, obviously seeing them together obviously triggers something there, because by the end of the chapter, it's like, I'm going to talk to Kyo. So.
Bring Kyo here. We have to get him away from her. Yeah, exactly. More so because he wants Tohru to be alone, not because he wants to see Kyo, which is kind of also kind of interesting. Yeah. It seems, at least. And I guess we also saw Yuki. So, like, when they leave, Yuki asks Haru about... There's an interesting little scene between Yuki and Haru, I thought. So it's after they come back. After Yuki is like, you must be tired after, like, being with Akito all day. And then Haru asks if Yuki's okay, and he says, I'm fine. And then Haru's like, are you planning to leave the nest? And Yuki's like, I don't even know if you understand. And then Haru's like, I like that about you. Which is... an interesting thing to say. I wonder what he means. I wonder if it's related to, like, Akito being such an asshole to him before. Like, if he had said that to Akito would have just been like, you're so dumb. But Yuki is like, I don't know. It seems like you understand, but I don't know, you know? I don't know. I'm choosing to interpret that in a positive way. Because Haru looks really relaxed. He's like, I like that about, that you understand me. But Akito doesn't, I guess.
Yeah, I do think there's I do think it's meant to contrast the scene with Akito, because we have, like, Akito laughing in that scene and Haru, like, telling him to stop, but in the scene, like, Yuki's laughing, and it's obviously a happy scene. And, like, both in response to something Haru said.
Yeah, that's true. Yuki acts more like it's entertaining or, like, enlightening and not dumb, what Haru thinks. So what Haru says. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to see somebody we talk a lot about the ways that, like, for example, somebody like Tohru has a positive impact on the characters in this series. So it's kind of nice to see, like, other characters kind of starting to help each other out. I think it's part of the change that's going on, right? Especially between Yuki and Haru, because they all have this kind of conversation often, and Yuki's always like, I can't do anything, like, I don't know. It seems like just him being around Haru made Haru feel better in this scene too. Even though Yuki's like, I'm a terrible guy and I don't have anything to offer or whatever. I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, all I do is make people worry. That's what it was.
Yeah, and it does seem like they've always been close, but it seemed like slightly more, not one-sided, but more obvious on like Haru's side. But it seems like Yuki's becoming more open with his, I don't know, affections, I guess.
Yeah, his feels. Feelings of friendship. I think with everybody, he's being more open, especially with Haru, but even with like Rin, I think that's kind of what I meant to say before when we were talking about Rin, is like Yuki's openly concerned about her, right? And he tries to like get her to talk to them, and she's like, no, fuck you. Basically. I think I said it in a spoiler comment, but like the beach arc kind of, we start to see a more proactive Yuki. And I think we're seeing it.
I think we're seeing this, and just him, like, he's being more, like, actually, like, talking to people, asking them questions, and being more open with his own thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, he sassed Shigure also, and he also, like, he was worried about Akito going to find Tohru, so he followed them, which was also really interesting. I don't think he would have done that in, like, a couple chapters ago.
Yeah. And also the scene with Kyo, which is really interesting, where he warns him like not to basically get on Akito's bad side because it'll end badly for Tohru, but he's also like kind of acknowledges like Kyo's situation too. Be like, I realize like it's painful to be in your situation, but you need to not let that control your emotions here.
Yeah, that was really interesting. It was a good scene too. Yuki has some good moments.
And then he sasses Kyo too with the "I'm me" thing.
Yes. And then Kyo is like, fuck you, damn rat.
Yeah. And then
Kyo
he just like doesn't even react
himself.
to and then like doesn't even react to Kyo being Kyo in that scene, which also shows some character development on Yuki's end.
I think so. He didn't react to Kyo. He didn't react to Rin. Yuki's not letting those things get to him as much. Even like the way that he reacted to like Kakeru in that one chapter that we read earlier. Yeah. Like it seems like he's really like, I'm not gonna let these things like rile me up or whatever. Yeah. It seems like. Yeah. We're seeing the new Yuki.
Sorry, I was gonna make a bad joke. We're seeing his summer glow up.
It wasn't a bad joke. It was a great joke. It was a good joke, and you should say it with confidence. There's a little Tohru arc in these chapters as well. We have her. Well, she's worrying about Yuki, so all the stuff that happened from before, and like worrying about what's going on and what Akito said to him, and whatever. And then she has this conversation with Kyo, and she worries about Kyo like during that conversation. Yeah. And the thing that she says later is like their voices were small and I couldn't hear them. And then she says things like she thinks even I have things that no matter what I don't want to be heard, which I thought was a really interesting line. Yeah. I think it's building on kind of like the darker feelings that she's having after the stuff the hero started a couple of chapters ago. I mean, maybe something else. It's kind of vague, but it's all. I feel like it's all kind of related. As all these things they're all three of the main trio are having these like different kind of emotional battles right now, and none of them want to tell any of the others about it, which is kind of interesting. Even Tohru. Yeah. So now we're learning more and more about. Also, again, learning more and more about the inner like darker motivations or thoughts that Tohru has too.
Yeah, but yeah, we're getting a lot of like kind of glimpses at Tohru's issues in these chapters, which we haven't seen too much of before. So it's kind of interesting. Not a lot of detail, but just that line that like there's things I don't want to be heard. Obviously says a lot.
Yeah, I think so. It was kind of interesting also. Kyo asks her kind of like Hattori asks what's bothering her, and she's like, I'm fine, everything's fine. And he like, I guess believes her or is satisfied with that answer because he like pats her head and walks away. And then Kyo also asks her what's wrong, and she's like, let's go play in the sand. And he's like, like, I'm asking you what's wrong. Like, she doesn't want to talk about it.
Deflecting.
Yeah. I think she successfully deflected it. Yeah. To making sandcastles.
Which is a good deflection, to be fair.
I mean, I think it worked out.
I'd be distracted by that, too.
Like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, you want to make sandcastles? Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
Were we talking about your feelings? Sorry. They have to go have their moment. Where they get almost crushed by a wave.
Yeah.
That's how they bond.
I think it's funny how like they have like two like moments on the beach and they both get like interrupted by like something crashing down. The first time it's Momiji.
Yeah, you're right. I like how it's like 2 days of them successively outside in the sand too. It was really funny.
Yeah.
Like they're back there doing it again.
Yeah. And like it's better the second time, like the sandcastle.
I like how she's like, I want to make a sandcastle that nobody can like say is not a sandcastle or whatever.
Yeah.
I like how Yuki also calls it a sand mountain, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Like, Yuki and Kyo, you're more similar than even you'd realize. So funny.
Yeah. That's like I made a comment that like Momiji's transformation is the one we see most often because he has like no qualms about just like throwing himself at Tohru and changing into a rabbit.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the others are more self-conscious about like the transformations, but
yeah.
He's just happy he has someone he can hug.
Yeah, it seems like. Yeah. I'm sure Kyo and Yuki aren't big huggers.
Yeah.
Or like Hattori or somebody that he has a closer relationship with.
So like you can see like Tohru's hat and like Momiji's clothes just like on the ground next to them after the impact.
Yes. Tohru's hat gets knocked off a couple of times. It gets knocked off in that scene by like the wind where she grabs his hand and then the water.
Then by the water.
Yeah. Oh, I have one other thing to say in my nose. I feel like we're seeing... so we know that Akito is known to abuse people, right? Like, we've seen it with Yuki. We know for sure. And we know that Akito did something to Kisa that put her in the hospital. Or Akito hit Kisa and that put her in the hospital. But then I feel like we actually finally saw Akito being not just physically abusive. Oh, and of course with Tori. That's the one that we saw before. That's like the big one. Yeah. So we actually saw Akito being verbally abusive this time as well. So especially with Haru, but also I think with Kureno.
Yeah. And it's kind of like we've seen Akito screaming at people before, but this is kind of the like insidious, quiet kind of emotional abuse.
Yeah.
Like just like oh, you're so funny and dumb to Haru, which is, and then telling Kureno he's like inferior and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, just something Akito does a lot, which is like the contrast of like I'm gonna list all these insults and then say like, oh, but I love you so much. So
yeah, it's a classic like gaslighting.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a form of gaslighting.
I feel like it is.
Keep saying things that
are just like not true,
like aren't true, as if they were true over and over again until they believe it.
That's what it feels.
It's not
like that.
It's not exactly right, but.
When I think of gaslighting, I think of when people are just like, you say something and they're just like, no, that's not how it is. But it's, I do think it is, it feels kind of like gaslighting to me. I mean, it's just extreme, like, negative.
Yeah, I think just the way he says it as if it's just a common
fact.
Known fact is kind of what makes it feel more gaslighting.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because he's not just going like, you're a stupid idiot, like an insult. He's going like, oh, Haru, you're always so dumb.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
as if it's the norm.
It's just how you are.
It's like, well, Kureno, like, I don't want you to spend time with these people because you're inferior and so blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like as if it's a fact. Like, I'm a nice person, so I think we should go over and like talk to Tohru, who's the Gorgon and should be isolated. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I feel like we're seeing not just the physical things, but also the ways that Akito verbally and emotionally abuses everyone in the Zodiac too. We saw a couple of examples of that this time in these chapters.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that it's broad and far-reaching. Like we've seen some of the like some of them obviously have worse experience with Akito, like Yuki, but it's obviously every single one of them. Should we talk about the whole stuff with Akito's beads?
Akito's beads.
Sorry, we were talking about Akito. Sorry.
Yeah.
With Kyo's beads.
Yes, let's talk about that.
It's like things we learned about the curse. It's been a while since we've had one of those.
That's true. I also forgot to keep track of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's a new thing we learned about the curse.
So yeah, they're made of human bones and blood.
Yeah, so it turns out.
That's fun.
It's a powerful protection charm. It's so like he has this whole. There's a couple of things that he says where he says that it's made by the. I guess it's like the sacrifice of people of others is what keeps him, what I guess protects him from turning into a monster is kind of how it's phrased.
Yeah,
protects him from transforming, and all the other cats have worn it.
Yeah,
he says the color never fades. It's supposedly made out of blood, but it seems like there's some like magic or something that keeps it from fading or whatever.
Yeah.
There's that flashback that he has of himself. It was the same one that we saw, I think, from Cosmo's perspective. He has this flashback of him outside looking dirty and being barefoot. What he says in the flashback is, what on earth did they mean in existence built on other sacrifices? on others' lives, stealing everything, trampling on everything until there's nothing left. And then it cuts to the future. So there's a very brief scene of this flashback where he's talking to Cosmo.
Yeah. And he seems pretty calm when he's talking about it, but then we have Tohru wondering about it being a burden about the
I think Tohru's reaction to it,
whole idea of the sacrifice of others. Yeah.
I feel like what Tohru's reaction to it is what makes it seem like it's very painful for him. So he talks about it really calmly, but then she reacts in a big way to it, and then he kind of smiles he knows that she knows that it's a painful for him to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's what she thinks of when she says he spoke in a quiet voice or whatever. I couldn't hear it. So it's obviously something painful for him. Yeah, that his ability to not be in that form relies on the sacrifices of others, I guess.
I do think it's interesting that the whole conversation about the sacrifices of others and for his existence and everything basically is directly leads into Akito saying that he killed his mother.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're closely connected in this chapter.
Yeah. That's another thing Akito just says as fact, is calling him a monster and stuff. And
yeah, Akito just constantly refers to him as a monster and rarely refers to him by name. I think that Akito said go and bring Kyo tomorrow or whatever, but that was one of the only times.
Yeah, I think that's the only time in this chapter that he said Kyo's name.
I do feel like there's a lot of things that are just set up but not wrapped up in this. There's a lot of still suspended little arcs that are going on. So we know next time I guess Kyo's gonna get summoned to the beach house or to not the beach house but the guest house.
Yeah, there's a lot of just sort of intriguing lines and scenes and moments that are just kind of left to hang there for the moment.
Yeah. Same with Rin freaking out. What's
her
deal?
Rin freaking out and some of the things Akito says,
all the stuff that Yuki says. Still, it's been 6 chapters and it's still I'll tell you someday, I promise. I'm gonna whisper it in your ear. Yeah.
Yeah, and Tohru's thing about having things she doesn't want heard.
Yeah. This time in these chapters, the metaphor is a small voice instead of the tightly closed lid.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's changing overall. It's their feelings were completely covered up, and now they're they're expressing them a little bit, but not enough that she can understand or whatever. Plot-wise, there are a lot of things ongoing.
Yeah, because we're still at the beach.
Yeah, beach. Do you feel there are any overarching themes or anything in these chapters?
And I think this whole small voice thing was definitely a theme in that first chapter. I don't know how much it carries over to the second, but I made note of that because it was a thing that carried through that whole chapter. Or the second chapter, I don't know, whichever one it was in.
Whatever one it's in.
Yeah.
I think it's
I think it is in both chapters.
It's in both, yeah.
Yeah, it starts because Yuki, the end of it is her talking about Yuki's small voice.
Yeah, the wave thing didn't happen until the second chapter, and that's after that Tohru says it. So
yeah, so that's kind of I think that's kind of the overarching narrative. We talk about we've talked about the chapters kind of being framed with a narrative voice before, and I think that kind of it doesn't quite frame it, but I think that kind of carries through these 2 chapters.
It does. Well, I mean, Yuki's the beginning of the first chapter is Tohru. I mean, it technically opens with the conversation between Rin and Kagura, but kind of narratively, the thing that happens first is Tohru's narration about the end of that day, where she's still thinking about what happened after, and it starts with her saying the end of that scene is her saying a small voice instead of words or whatever. So it is kind of framed by that.
Yeah.
I can't remember when she kind of ends that. Let me see what happens at the end.
I think it sort of ends with after the Rin scene ends, because she has she kind of falls into that narrative with talking about how there's little she can do, and then she starts to say something to Yuki, and then things there's little I can do, and then just kind of calmly says I'll be waiting.
Yeah, you're right. Rin being there kind of interrupts it, but yeah, it's
yeah. So it doesn't frame it as strictly as we've seen in the past, where it'll end and begin with narration, but it's definitely kind of begins, kind of ends, and has a couple of things in the middle. So
I think there's just so many parts that some of these the threads in this are getting quite complicated. Yeah,
they're not. It's not really beginning of the chapter, end of the chapter, next story kind of thing as much anymore. So
no, but I do think I think you're right that is that little storytelling element, that theme runs through this.
Yeah.
something that I don't want people to know. And I think that it's true with Rin too, because Rin is like, don't tell people that I was here.
Mm-hmm.
And even like Kagura's mom is like, just stays between me and you, but don't go to the main house.
Yeah.
Or don't go visit Akito. And then I feel, I don't know. There's like a bunch of little dialogue kind of like pieces and things that happen that are similar to that. Or like that relate to that sort of overall theme. Secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I don't want other people to know about me. I can't remember if I talked about this a long time ago in the very first episode or not, or if it was in the spoilers. For sure I would have talked about it in the spoilers, but I think that like Akito and Tohru are foils for each other. And I think we're starting to see that especially here because Akito keeps pulling them away, and you can see like the way that Akito treats the Zodiac versus the way that Tohru treats them, and I think there's a very strong contrast there, and we can kind of see that. In not even so much in this chapter, but the last episode that we read, or where we talked about the 2 chapters we read last, or maybe before, where like for example, Miji's like, yeah, but I do want to go back to the beach house soon, right? Yeah. Where they're all like, I want to go back, and Tohru is like, in this chapter, she's like, everybody was so happy to come back, but I was lost in my thoughts. It's like they're happy because they're not stuck with Akito anymore. Like,
yeah,
I feel like we're starting to see that here.
Yeah. You're not stuck in Akito's dentist waiting room anymore.
Yeah. The dentist waiting room of hell. Yes. Yeah. I think that's all that we can say for now. That's not spoilery. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I think that's all I have.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about spoilers then.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know. Thank you as always for listening. I'm looking forward to doing this like special. I've been thinking about things to talk about in the special today, earlier. But yeah, thank you all for listening, for always supporting us. As always, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Anyway. Hey, hi. We're back to talk about spoilers.
We're here to spoil you.
We're here to spoil you with information about Fruits Basket.
What I had was Kagura and her parents, because I don't think we've gotten like the full bit of Kagura's backstory, but I think pretty sure in later chapters it's implied that like they used to have like a not so great relationship.
Yeah, I think that's what's implied. It's never, I don't think we see it.
Yeah, but I think like when she has the flashback to her and Kyo as kids, she says like part of the reason she became friends with Kyo is because she was like, well, at least it's not as bad as him.
Yes.
And, like thinking about like feeling guilty about like her parents fighting and not getting along and everything.
Yeah.
Because of like the stress of having a Zodiac child.
Yeah. I think it's also partly said in contrast to talking about Rin's parents. I think that's all at the same time, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I think when we get Rin's flashback, they also talk about how like she sees like Kagura's parents like now that they argue and stuff, but they are obviously like still love each other as contrasted to Rin's whole situation.
Yeah, or they're just like they were just pretending the whole time essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they say that like Rin's like not Rin, Kagura's like whole boar related temper thing was what they put her in martial arts to deal with that.
Yeah, I think we'll see. But it's nice to see them. It's nice to see a parent who's like, I'm worried about you spending time with Akito. Please don't go to Akito. Yeah. Ugh.
I like that we see like we got the like awful parents, and we got the like really really good parents, like Hiro's parents, Hiro's mother. But it's nice to see we have a lot of like in between kind of normal human emotion range parents. Yeah. Like obviously that would be a really stressful situation.
Yes.
To have a child who's possessed by a vengeful spirit. Yes. And so like we have like so Kagura's parents who like had their issues early on, but now are on fairly good place, and like Kisa's mom,
yes,
who had reached her wit's end but still loved her and just needed a break,
yes,
and stuff. So
yeah, it's nice to see some other types of relationships. We don't even have the like when you were like normal family relationship. I was like, oh, like the hostess from the hot spring. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, someone who just like has a sort of standard relationship, and also is like, oh, you broke that door again or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much of that they're really like they're worrying about Rin, not necessarily Kagura, which is kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
It seems like they've dealt with their own problems enough that they can kind of be concerned about Rin too.
Willing to take in Rin and try to help with all her baggage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be a success or not, but
No, but good on them for trying.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also, it's really nice for them to take in Rin because,
Yeah, because her life is fucked up after
Yeah.
that time, after her parents. But I mean, there's so long in between then and now in the story. Like they just took her in for a couple of months, but like, what was she doing in between? Because that reveal happens when she was like a little kid. That she's like I don't know, I want to say like 7 or something like that.
Yeah. But I think, wasn't she still like, she was still like in their custody for a long time.
Yeah, until one time she was sick, and I think Tohru was there in the hospital, and then her mom comes in, and they're like, whatever, I don't care if you get better or not, or whatever. It was crazy.
Yeah, but she was older then, so.
Yeah. That's when Haru
I can't
was
remember
there.
exactly how old she was, but yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what the timeline was in between, but we will. I'm pretty sure we'll see it. So
Yeah.
we'll find out later.
Yeah, but just in general, it's nice to see, like, family acting like family and take in even more distant members that are having a rough time. So
Yeah, it's nice to see some nice. It's nice when we see nice people in the family. We so often don't. I see what you're saying. I understand you. Especially with Rin, because
Yeah. The next one I had was Akito basically talking about how Kureno's curse is broken.
Yes. I like how Akito is like, oh, you have to pretend to be like a normal zodiac, or pretend it, or you have to like act like a.
It's like act as a proper member of the Junichi
or something.
I believe is what he says.
And you're like, what the fuck does that mean? The first time.
Yeah, and he's like, I know you're inferior, but
yeah. You could definitely.
I don't think I even paid that much attention to it the first time, but like reading it now, you're like, oh, that's really obvious foreshadowing if you know what's coming.
It's also couched in Akito being terrible to a bunch of other people, and so it just seems like, oh, that's what Akito says to Kureno to be mean, but really it's referring to his curse being broken, which is interesting.
Yeah, and we also get some fun like misleads with Tohru wondering if Akito's the rooster since she's met all the other Junichi now.
I've met Horse-san. So Rooster-san must be.
Yeah.
It's like, nope. And then it leads you to wonder what's Kureno's deal. So.
Yeah, and like she's never seen Kureno, so she wouldn't have any reason to go, there's another Zodiac member.
As far as
another person closely tied with the Sohmas, so.
Yep, that's true. I don't have anything else to say about Kureno.
Yeah.
He really doesn't say very much. It's a little weird.
Yeah, he's just really shut down when he's around Akito.
I mean, he was barely not shut down when he was with Uo, so.
Yeah. Like, he literally, I think that line that, like, Tohru's not alone, she's hanging out with Kyo is, like, the only thing he says.
I think that's literally the only thing he said these 2 chapters.
Since being at the beach.
Maybe, yeah, I think so. Because Yuki, like, saw him and Kureno just, like, walked away. Like, he didn't even say anything to Yuki, right?
Yeah, like, he just goes and, like, I think tells Akito that Yuki's there, but we don't get a word bubble from him or anything. He just...
No, Akito...
So I think those are the only, like, actual words we hear from him.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. It's an interesting thing for him to point out, too. It's like, nah, Kureno, it's all your fault that Kyo's gonna get taken away.
Yeah.
But I like how he's like, no, like, you're wrong. Kyo is there, and Kito's like, what? No. Kyo's not a person. They can't be entertaining at all. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, that brief, like, flashback of Kyo's we're gonna get more of that in, like, the next chapter. So.
Yeah, it was hard for us. Because we just read the next one. I was like, oh, wait, does that happen? Oh, no, just kidding. That's next time. Yeah, next time is, like, basically all about Kyo. We had the last, not these 2 chapters, but the 2 before were kind of about Yuki. And then there was these 2, which is the aftermath of all the Yuki, main focus of Yuki's stuff. And then now we're getting some stuff about Kyo. And I think we're going to get stuff about Tohru. I was just wondering to myself, before we started recording this, if this is... I was like, wow, this seems like where Kyo... The next chapter is Kyo saying that he loves Tohru. And I was like, wow, that seems like a really big climax to the beach arc. But then I was like, but Yuki said that too, so that was kind of a big climax to the beach arc. I think there's like 3 or 4 like big moments in this arc, of course. So
yeah, I think if I had to pick one, the God reveal is probably the biggest. But yeah, there's like every like pair of chapters we've read have had a pretty
some big
significant
thing. Especially Tori and Mayako getting this together. I mean, what?
Yes. Yeah. Because even this one has, like, Rin is the horse.
Right. So Akito must be the rooster. I mean...
Yeah. I mean, it's good logic if you're Tohru.
Yes. Yeah, the end of the volume is the fireworks scene. So.
Yeah. And then we go back home, I think.
Yeah, we do. We go back to school.
Yeah. It's been, like, 2.5 volumes of Beach.
Yeah, it's like a 3-volume arc. It's okay, so many things happened. I was like, ooh, this. Ooh, so exciting.
Yeah.
Ooh, no.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like slow while you're reading it. It's just like, you're like, wow, we're in the beach a lot.
I was like, this summer is going to last forever.
Yeah.
It's summer, guys. Summer. The whole next season of the anime is just going to be the beach arc.
Yeah. Every episode's going to be like, guys, it's summer.
I have a feeling something big is going to happen next time. Anyway, yes, that was exciting. It's an exciting reveal. Did you have one more?
I mean, I haven't noticed his feathers, but it's not really anything I want to talk about. It's just like more feathers from the feather theory.
Yeah, you're right, I think, because Rin is all really agitated, and so is Akito. So, yes, I think it's their descent into darkness. Actually, we do need to talk about that scene with Rin. Yeah, so at the end of these chapters that we read, Rin goes to the sun, goes to the sand, goes to the beach.
Just flies into the sun.
She's like, becomes like the prince of the cosmos.
She's like, I'm out.
Yeah, bye. I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Fair enough.
So she goes to the beach and she sees the remnants of the sandcastle, and then she's like, damn it, and then crushes it with her foot. But also she remembers Tohru and Kyo in the sand. So she was like creeping them, first of all, which I think is interesting. And then she remembers Tohru's face looking kind of concerned. She also like tugs at the shirt that she borrowed from Tohru. I can't tell if this sound effect is like tearing it or something else. I put it in here before. What was it? Edie. Shock. So maybe it's just, it says being strained or the after effects of absorbing an intense force or power, like from an intense emotion. So I don't know. So maybe that, but it doesn't seem like that. There was also some other sound effects that were close to it that were like a rip sound too.
Could it be like physical straining? Because that could be like
Could
just
be.
kind of
I
like
don't know.
pulling at
It's
the, like the
tremble.
like the stitches are straining but not quite ripping.
Maybe it's like a
You know, like when you kind of pull really hard at fabric, it kind of makes that sound.
I could see that being that sound, even if it's not.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so she tugs the shirt, and then we see the feathers, and we transition to Akito. That's what happens. This is the scene that we're talking about. So everyone's clear.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
It's just an interesting reaction right now, but
it is interesting. I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not really sure what she's frustrated about. But I think what it is actually is that she saw, especially because of the tugging the shirt and remembering Tohru's face. Because doesn't she later say she didn't want to meet Tohru because she knew that she would be vulnerable?
Yeah, because
around her. Yeah,
I was gonna say I think it's her starting to like rebelling against being cared about.
Yes.
Like, especially with the like tugging at the clothes, that Tohru got for her.
Yeah, and her concern.
Because she has like a whole thing. Yeah, because she has a whole thing later on with Tohru where she's like kind of resisting. Because she talks about it, like people like Tohru like and have people who just try to cling to them and stuff, and she doesn't want to do that, but then she like gives in and says like, I'm going to cling to you or whatever. But
yes. And so then they all bawl their eyes out, and it's another great scene. It's one that I like.
But yeah, I think overall Rin has a thing about like trying to not have people care about her so they don't get hurt.
Yeah. Like
that's why she dumped Haru.
Yes. It's kind of like Kyo, actually, in his like, I don't want people to say, I guess like say bad things about someone because of me. Yeah. Because they have a close relationship with me. But yeah, for Rin, it's like, I don't want someone to care about me.
Yeah, so I think this is her like kind of being like, oh no, like she can see how this is gonna go if she
gets close to Tohru.
If she gets close to Tohru, so it's just kind of her like being frustrated and like rebelling against that feeling.
And just let it go, Rin. You have to accept it. Accept her love.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's funny, especially because of the clothes. I was like, oh, when she tugs the shirt, it's like something that Tohru gave her to. Rin was vulnerable, and Tohru protected her when she was vulnerable, and cared for her, even in the like 2 seconds that they met. Yeah. And Rin's like, fuck this. I don't want this.
Yeah. And I think she does say later on that like immediately on meeting Tohru, she kind of felt like she wanted to like cry on her shoulder, basically.
I think she does say that directly. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the kind of person that you'll just like You fall into her arms and sob.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. Something like that. Something even more dramatic than what you said.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting scene. I said earlier that I forgot that it happened. Like, I forgot this is something that she does.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that she was sneaking around. We talked about Yuki seeing her, I remember, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And also it's the sandcastle. She kicks out the sandcastle. Is there something symbolic about that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not something that...
I think it's just pettiness.
Maybe. Maybe. It was the closest place she could get to without, like, fainting again.
Yeah.
I
was thinking, you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Yeah.
The bit when, I can't remember what was going on, but, like, Rocket gets frustrated and starts, like, kicking the, like, plant that's coming out of the ground, and he's like, "You're making me beat up grass!"
Yeah. So it's like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just immediately thinking of that when I saw this. It's like, "You're making me beat up sand."
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it is.
I think it's just a symbol of Tohru's Tohru-ness, and so she's frustrated and trying to...
I like how she knows that after meeting her for
Take
2
out her
seconds. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
It is a symbol of Tohru's Tohru-ness, where she's like, I'm going to make the best sandcastle ever, and I'm going to hang out with Kyo while doing it. I'm having so much fun.
Yeah.
Whatever. And Kyo is like, you're making a terrible sandcastle. And she's like, I don't care. Like,
yeah. But yeah, I do appreciate how Rin, like, basically, like, has, like, love at first sight with Tohru and gets really angry about it.
I think that would be a good ship, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, she has this, like, really... Yeah. She could tell that she's someone that they're going to be close, but she doesn't want it. She's trying so hard to avoid it, which I think is really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to say something about the wave, other than that I think that it's hilarious, and it's definitely one of my favorite moments of Furuba, but we talked a long time ago about other imagery for change, and I think waves are also a really powerful imagery of change. Mm-hmm. You know, they literally, like, physically change the shore. I mean, it knocks down the castle, and now then Rin comes to destroy it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even have the classic of the wave, like, eroding the sandcastle, which is...
wash away. I mean...
You're a fool, shut up. So
anyway,
crossover between Furuba fans
and
How I
Met
Met
Your
Your
Mother
fans.
fans. I bet there's a good amount. It seems like it's a, like, romance comedy. Just like Fruits Basket.
Exactly.
Oh. Anyway, yes, the sandcastle washes the the ocean washes the sandcastle away.
Yes.
It causes a lot
symbolic.
of symbolic massive change, which I feel like is happening. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really happen at a moment in time that's, like, critical. I guess there was like a big full moon in the scene where Yuki kisses Tohru too, that's, like, in the memory that she has this time.
Yeah.
I'm always talking about the moon.
That's why the tide's so high.
Yeah, that's why that rogue wave comes out of nowhere. It's a half moon, not a full moon.
Is it waxing or waning?
Well, we'll never know.
But either way, it's changing.
It's definitely in the process of changing. There's also, like, there's a scene at dusk, too. The one where they all come back and Yuki threatens Kyo. Or whatever.
I really like that panel with the just, like, silent silhouette panel.
It's like, it's not silent, though. There's, like, the sound of the ocean.
Yeah.
It's implied that it's just, like, the sound of the waves. There's all these random little sound effects in here that are, like, sha, like, in the background, or, like... I think the scene where, before the wave, of course, I think she does see that it's painful for Kyo, even though he talks about this so nonchalantly, and he notices that she notices that, and that's why they have that reaction to each other.
Yeah, it's a sweet scene.
It's adorable. And then he grabs her face and it's like, stop laughing, which is also adorable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of face touching in these chapters between Yuki and Kyo and Tohru.
Yeah.
It's like, this is as close as they can get without hugging, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice how intimate they all seem to be getting more and more comfortable with each other, including Yuki, which is nice because he wasn't like that before as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've definitely come more able to show affection.
Yeah, physically.
And even like we were talking about the scene with Yuki and Haru, like he like puts his hand on Haru's shoulder and everything too. So
yeah, it's nice.
Yep.
Hitori pats Toru's head. That was nice.
Yeah, that's cute too.
But it was just very cute. It was very sweet the way he's like, I couldn't say hi, and I just wanted to apologize to you. Okay, I have to leave now. And she's like, I'm fine.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's adorable.
And there's Momiji just hugging.
Yeah. Just hugging.
No qualms.
No, he doesn't give a shit about what other people think. It's also nice. A couple of times before this, Satori also mentioned that he's worried about. He's like, "Can you not do this so that you? Why are you putting Tohru in danger or whatever?" Like he says to Shigure.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how he says it, but he's like, "Could you not meddle in things?"
Yeah, and he specifically says like, "Could you think a little bit about Kyo and Yuki and
He's
Tohru?"
like, "Well, someone think of the children." That's what he's like.
Yeah.
And Shigure's like, "I am a child, so."
Yes.
I think those are all the spoilers that I had.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Kyo a lot next time. I'm excited.
It's a lot. I actually just glanced at my notes for next chapter, and almost every single one starts with the word Kyo.
Yeah, right on the nose.
I didn't notice that as I was writing it, but...
Well, I read through the first one, I read through it, and then I started writing notes, and I was like, this whole thing is just about Kyo, which is great. I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
It's his time to shine.
Yeah, as a preview, my first 3 notes are Kyo being quote-unquote invited, Kyo and Yuki, Kyo and Akito.
I think, what are my first
Part of that, we got Kyo's mother, Kyo and Tohru.
My first notes are Toru's excitement about Kyo being called, Kyo and Yuki's fight. Akito's treatment of Kyo is ironically the same as everyone else's. And then there's a note that just says, love. It's good times. Really bringing the content today on this podcast. Yes. All right, that's probably enough for now. If they've suffered through listening to us for this long.
Yes.
And listen to us singing.
We appreciate your tolerance.
Yeah, listening to us singing Sandcastles in the Sand. Okay. All right. That's enough spoilers for now. Next time we're going to talk about more beach time with Kyo. And we will see you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Don't do drugs and stay in school, okay?
Unless you're possessed by a vengeful spirit.
Well, nobody can tell you what to do if you're possessed by a vengeful spirit, except for the god of your vengeful spirit.
Okay. Yeah.
Oops.
If you're possessed by a vengeful spirit and physically and emotionally abused by your god, I think you can probably start smoking. That's probably okay.
Good times. We made something sad into something funny.
We do.
Yeah, we have to try. Somebody has to. Sandcastles wash away. I mean,
you're a fool. Shut up. So
anyway,
crossover between Furuba fans
and
How I Met Your
Mother
Mother
fans. I bet there's a good amount. That seems like it's a romance comedy, just like Fruits Basket.
Exactly.
Oh,
so basically the same series. So.
But where's the cockamouse? These are the questions.
The cockamouse of the Zodiac.
And then the cockamouse rode on the back of the ox and at the last second flew off and landed in front of everyone else.
They hug that person, they transform, and they're like, oh my god.
What are you? Like, this is the rat's true form.
They're like, please put the beats back on.
I'm not sorry for anything that we said in the last 2 minutes. Oh. Akito's treatment of Kyo is ironically the same as everyone else's. And then there's a note that just says, love. And that's it.
But he's excited about love.
Yeah, he's excited about Kyo and Tohru. I know he's a shipper.
He gets on my laptop when I go to bed and starts getting in arguments on internet forums.
Pecking very loudly.
Yeah.
You're like, who left this beautiful Kyo fan art on my desk?
Yeah. He leaves flames on Yuki Tohru fanfic.
She's like, you suck. You can hear him tapping on the U key,
He's like, you suck. I'm a bird.
Head stuck in bagel. He leaves comments in forums, and it's like, why not Kyo Tohru?
Yeah. Specious. Wait.
Wait. What do you think the crossover is of burp? What is there a name for that meme? I don't even know.
Bird right activist.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, what's the crossover?
I hope the crossover is everyone, because everyone should enjoy that Twitter.
Birds right activist. It's good times. Really bringing the content today on this podcast.
Yes.